Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Minimalist Podcast. I'm your host, Meg Carney, and I'm an outdoor and environmental writer and author of the book, Outdoor Minimalist, Waste Less Hiking, Camping, and Backpacking. The Outdoor Minimalist Podcast has the goal to give listeners actionable ways to waste less hiking, camping, backpacking, and more during every step of their process. Your impact outdoors starts long before you hit the trail and goes beyond leave no trace ethics. You'll learn how to identify sustainable outdoor brands, how to ask hard questions regarding sustainability, and begin to shift and evolve your mindset to integrate minimalism into all of your outdoor pursuits. Everyone's here. Welcome. Welcome to the 100th episode of the Outdoor Minimalist Podcast. Since it is the 100th episode, we thought that it would be fun to, instead of just doing like a recap of like our favorite episodes or whatever, you could meet the whole Outdoor Minimalist team. And so we're doing kind of like a sit down chat to kind of recap what has happened in making 100 episodes of the podcast and starting a YouTube channel and just like growing together as a group and a brand. So that is what we're doing here today.
Spectacular.
I believe that everyone has formally met my brother Alex on the show before. We did an episode together, and he was also in the Christmas tree display, which is one of my personal favorites.
I forgot about that one.
You were the narrator.
I was.
Yeah, he was the narrator and he did the intro flawless. And then I've mentioned Ethan on the show before, but you haven't formally met him. This is him in his beautiful form. So I think to start, I'll just have you guys more formally introduce yourselves. And if you'd like, you can share like a fun fact, such as if you were a dog breed, what would you be? I don't care who starts. Whoever feels inspired.
I guess I'll feel inspired. Well, like she said, I'm Alex. I'm the editor of the podcast audio and video. And I guess if I were a dog breed, I'd probably aptly, boringly be a Labrador Retriever.
Is that because of Piper?
Well, partially, but I vibe hard with their chill, lazy nature.
Sure.
That's fair.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
I'm Ethan. I do the vlog and video edits, and sometimes we do photo shoots together. So do all that. Dog breed. I'm probably like a mangy mutt of sorts.
A mangy mutt. Like one that you find by a dumpster?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if it's behind a restaurant, just like going through trash, that's probably my dog breed.
Okay, that's beautiful. I love that. So we all kind of came together. I already said you're my brother, but Ethan's like a family friend. And you joined in January, I believe, of this year. I guess more December of last year. And then you started like halfway through, I think like episode...
It was like 37, I want to say. Just a shot in the dark, I think.
Yeah, it was in the 30s. I was going to say somewhere in the 30s, but I couldn't remember.
It's been a little over a year.
Yeah. And I guess the last time we were all together in this shop was when you guys helped me renovate the van and filmed basically all of the vlog content that led up to the van trip.
Well, do we want to keep on going with the van trip then?
Yeah.
I mean, since you kind of wrapped it up, what was your overall time frame, just to give a general scope of that? So you left here, after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, so I was here for Thanksgiving, and I stayed like a couple days after, maybe like a week or something. And then the trip ended.
She left before my birthday.
I did. Yeah, I did do that. But I sent you a present.
You did, and it was lovely.
From Salem.
Very witchy.
And how long was I gone? I honestly don't remember. Through March.
Is when you got back to Wenatchee?
Yeah, I got back like near the end of March, I believe.
That's a long time to be on the road.
That's a good trip.
December, January, February, March. Yeah, so about 4 months. It was like 3-4 months range in there for how much time I actually spent in the van. And like the trip trajectory, so I drove from Wenatchee, Washington to Minnesota, sold my Subaru, and then bought the van. You guys helped me kind of flip it. And then
Thanks for the Subaru, by the way.
Yes, I sold the Subaru to Alex. I miss the Subaru sometimes. It's a really good car. But I only wanted one car, so it made sense to sell it. And then my plan was to go east because I haven't spent a ton of time out on the East Coast, kind of like exploring. So from Minnesota, I went over to Winona to see a friend, and then I went straight to Cincinnati, Ohio. I did some errands in between, like getting new tires and like general things for the van. And then I made my way from Cincinnati, like beat bopping around up through New York and into Maine. And then I went kind of down the coast and I did some zigzagging down in like Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, everywhere in this region. And then I kind of ended in Florida. I went back up to Tennessee for like 2 weeks. It was very fun. Tennessee and North Carolina in that region. Florida was really hot when I was there, even though I was there in January.
So
Yeah, like end of January, beginning of February is when I was in Florida because I spent a couple of weeks down in Florida and it just got too hot in the van and Leo wasn't completely done shedding his winter coat. So it was like a lot to manage. So we went north into the mountains again. That is a summary of the trip. And if you want more information about the trip, then go back to our other YouTube videos and you can see all the vlogs from all the states that I went to. Oh, very
Hello.
agile. And this is Leo.
Who you've also seen from the vlogs.
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess now that you've like recapped the trip, I think the best course of action now is just to ask you some questions about the trip. So of all the places you went over your 4 months, like what was the best place or your favorite place, like amongst all of the stops?
My favorite place.
I mean, you went to Tennessee twice, so.
I did really like being in Tennessee. I kind of liked that whole region, kind of like North Carolina, Tennessee, and South Carolina. I would maybe, if I had to pick, I would maybe say South Carolina was my favorite state that I visited just because the national forest that we were in was really beautiful and the weather was the most favorable in that region. I also really, really liked Florida though, because the only time I had been to Florida was like in high school when we went to Disney World or something. And so I'd only been, where's that at? In Orlando? Mm-hmm. I'd only really been to Orlando. So it was nice to see kind of like the more natural areas because I camped in some of the northern national forests and then I was able to see the Everglades with one of my coworkers and I stayed with a friend near Palm Springs, I think is where she lived. So we did some like searching to find manatees, which was fun. And then I went down to the Florida Keys and then I went like through the Everglades area again over to Fort Myers. And I visited one of the guests that was on the podcast actually. In one of the earlier episodes, he did the fly fishing episode, the first fishing episode, I think, maybe. Finding minimalism through fly fishing is the title of that episode. And he brought me canoeing and I can't remember the name of the stream that we were on. It was just north of Fort Myers. And apparently it's where they filmed one of the really old Tarzan movies. It looked very jungly. It was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I saw so many alligators while I was there. Not specifically on that river, but when I went into the Everglades, I saw tons of alligators. Beautiful creatures.
Did you have a least favorite part of the trip?
Oh gosh. Yeah, did you have a least favorite part? Oh, I got it. Okay. It has to do with Leo. That's what brought it to me. So, I visited a friend outside of Boston, and we went to Salem, and I had a really, really good time in Salem, but I had gotten a dog sitter for these guys. For the time period that we were visiting the city. And it was close to her house. So we dropped him off in the morning. We went to Salem. We were waiting in the tattoo shop. I think that Kat had gone in to get hers or was just about to. And then I got a call from a random number that was Massachusetts. And so I assumed I was probably the dog sitter. But it was just some random man and was like, I have your dog. And I was like, why? And which one? Like, and we were like, it's probably like an hour and a half, hour-ish away from where they were being watched. And so, of course, I asked him, was there a black dog with him? Because it was Leo that he had. And he was like, no, it was just him. And I grabbed him and he was really nice, whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I can't come pick him up right now. I could be there in like this amount of time, but let me call the dog sitter and see what happened. And so I messaged her and then she called me and she said that Leo had opened the gate and let the dogs out. Ash came back when he called.
Oh my God.
Jailbreak.
Yeah. When they called for the dogs, Ash came back because he's a good boy. Leo's a good boy too, but he loves grand adventures, especially if he's anxious. And I'm sure he was anxious when I left him there. Yeah, so that was a whole fiasco. It made me like really nervous because like we were just getting the tattoos. We had one more stop to go to the cemetery and then we were leaving. And so I was like, well, we can skip the cemetery. I don't know, whatever. And then we went and picked them up, but I was very stressed like during that time period because one, I needed this man to bring him back to the dog sitter. And then I was like, the dog sitter apparently cannot watch these dogs well enough because I was like, have you watched a husky before? Because like I gave you information about him as an individual. And so you should have been paying more attention. But I do understand that things happen. And we had kind of a long discussion about it afterwards. And I was like, I'm trying not to be really mad at you, but also he's my baby. Mm-hmm. And he's in a strange city. He ran away. He got pretty far away because I have trackers on their collars. And so I could see where he was, which also I was upset because I was like, if you had called me right away, I could have told you his exact location because I could have sent it from the tracker. But he's okay, and he just got to hang out with a very friendly gentleman that brought him home and played with him, and then brought him back to the dog sitters, and then I went and got him, and they were fine. So that was probably the worst experience on the trip, just because I was so stressed. I had a lot of other fiascos with the van itself, but those kind of resolved themselves, and they honestly didn't stress me out as much as that did.
And he's had enough of this.
Yeah, he's like, I am done with you talking about my adventures because I had a great time.
He looks so ashamed now. It's like, thanks for bringing it up, Mom.
He really, like, the first month was kind of hard with him, but he adjusted pretty fast. And Ash has traveled with me a lot, so Ash was not really a problem at all. Yeah.
So being gone that long and dealing with two dogs who are very independent at times. What is something during the trip that like you learned or something about living in a van for that extended period of time? Like what is something that you experienced or like learned that you were like, oh wow, like I did not expect this, like something unexpected within the van life itself?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I kind of knew what I was in for because I had lived in vehicles for periods of time before. But I think this was the longest period that I was like traveling while living in the vehicle, because a lot of the other times I had lived in vehicles, I had kind of been stationary and like located in an area. And so the travel aspect, like logistics, were kind of hard to arrange with the dogs, and like parking, having to find parking so frequently was kind of a nightmare sometimes. But I think the main thing that I didn't expect was the moisture underneath my mattress, especially because I started in the wintertime.
Sure.
And so like there really wasn't that much condensation building up in the van. Like there was enough ventilation, and I didn't notice the moisture until I started getting further south. I think in Georgia is where I started to notice it. And luckily the mattress did not mold before I was able to correct the issue. And
your solution was like genius. Like that's, the floor mats is such a good idea.
I know. I'm glad that I thought of it because I had gone to so many stores.
That's perfect.
So many stores. And so, yeah, there is a whole video.
And if you'd like to learn more about the mattress fiasco, visit our YouTube channel at Outdoor Minimalist.
For real, yeah. There is, I don't remember what vlog episode number it is, but it's called Mattress Fiasco. And it details that entire day because it took like most of a day of me going to Walmart and then Home Depot and then Lowe's and then this sports store and then back to Lowe's. And I had asked so many Lowe's employees questions on my first trip. When I walked back in the store, they're like, "You're back really soon." And I was like, wow, I talked to all of you. They were really nice though. Yeah, but that was a big one, a big learning experience for me.
So aside from Leo running away, what was the most surprising thing that happened to you on the trip?
Probably when I drove into a mud hole.
Oh, that would catch anyone by surprise. Yeah.
It did not look as deep as it was, and there was lots of puddles on this road. This was in South Carolina. And this whole day, like, I considered saying this as like, this was the worst one, but it was also a really good experience, weirdly. But it was like a very surprising one. So I got stuck in this mud hole, and like the whole van was like tilted up on the front. And so like the back was like raised because it was deep in there, and it just looked like a normal puddle. And so I was like, there's no way I'm getting out of here. But luckily this man had lost his beagle and was looking for him in the forest, and he had this huge truck and a tow strap. And so he just went around me, and I had only been there for like 5 minutes, and he came the other direction up the road. And so he went around me, and then he pulled me out, and then we found his beagle. And then during that time period too, when we were doing all the mud stuff, we found a dog. It was like some hound dog. That was the day, the hound dog day. And so he had like the hunting crates in the back of his truck. And so I was like, if we get the dog in your crate, we can bring him to the road and call animal control, and then I'll wait with him. And that's what happened. And I named the dog Mud Bud, but I did not keep him because he went to the shelter. And I did, in case anyone's concerned, because I was concerned
Of course.
about this, because it's a pretty common thing in the South. That was like the end of their deer hunting season. They'll use packs of dogs still down there to hunt them, and then they'll like chase them down. But if you have kind of a poor performing hunting dog, or one that just kind of like flunks out or just isn't behaving well with your group of dogs, they'll just dump them at the end of the season. And so that time of year, the animal patrol officer lady, she said they're getting tons of hounds. Yeah. And he was so skinny. Like, he had been out there for a while.
Buddy.
Yeah, it was so sad. And because of that, and the guy that helped me, Mike, I believe is his name, he told me he was surprised animal control was even coming because the shelters are so full. And so I asked her if they euthanized dogs like him that were like in poor condition, and she said no. So, and I did call the following week to make sure. Adventuring plans on your calendar? Remember to grab your Lava Linens travel towel on your way out the door. Founded by a mother-daughter team, Lava Linens crafts durable, luxurious travel towels as a more sustainable and better performing alternative to microfiber and cotton towels. Powered by flax, hemp, and Tencel, they're designed to be by your side for years to come. Use the code Outdoor Minimalist for 15% off your next order.
100 episodes.
Now that we're back from the commercial break, let's just talk about the podcast. And I know that we weren't all here for all 100 episodes, but I think we can kind of just like jump in from where we started and talk about maybe what some of the challenges that we faced. Big stretch.
Good one, bud.
And it'll be kind of interesting to hear from everyone because we kind of have different perspectives on the episodes. So I guess you don't have to pick like a specific scenario, but like just generally, what were some of the challenges that you had to navigate in the last 100 episodes or last however many episodes you've been with us?
I had to figure out how to edit a podcast. I mean,
well, you kind of knew how.
Well, I knew the principles of editing audio and stuff, but it was just like a whole new format and
setting up a system to do it consistently.
Yeah. I mean, that's like true. Learning any new thing.
So it was learning how to do it.
Just kind of creating a new work environment for myself. And
sure.
Other than that, I mean, honestly, the most challenging one was that special episode with the Christmas trees.
Oh yeah, the
Because
Christmas trees.
that was like, it's a work of fiction. I mean, it was basically like doing talk radio from like the 30s, all the fun sound effects and stuff like that.
That one was the most fun, and I have thought about writing another one like that.
I think it'd be a riot.
But I just haven't thought of another good topic, so I'll have to brainstorm, because I did get a lot of good feedback on that episode. And one of my friends, she said, sometimes when I'm sad, I just play the Christmas tree display. And I was like, but it is a sad episode.
I am very whimsical though.
You are. Yeah.
You guys are like the most casual Christmas trees too. Like, this is just my life.
Because we're trees.
I know.
Okay.
How could you not be chill?
I think for me, editing the video and like the YouTube channel side of it while you were on the road was not knowing what I was getting when you would dump a whole bunch of like footage. And so the hardest part for me was just going through all the stuff you sent and trying to put it together, not knowing where you were or what you've been up to for a week or however long in between. So that was probably the most challenging, but it was also like the most exciting, because like you'd be like, I just dumped a whole bunch of videos into the folder, and I'd be like, oh, what are we gonna do today? And always fun to see something exciting. So
yeah, and it was helpful to have you edit those videos. I think for me, trying to do like more of like the talking head type videos, because if I would set the phone up, I would just pretend I was talking to you.
perfect.
And I think it made it more casual, and it was a little less awkward. So yeah, it was fun. That was fun.
You should get like a little cardboard cutout of me to sit in the van next to you.
That's okay. I could make a doll, like a
voodoo doll. Worse than a cutout.
a little voodoo doll.
Over the past 100 episodes, what have been the challenges for you?
Oh yeah, I forgot that was the question. So, I think one of my main challenges was to become a decent interviewer, because I don't know, like sometimes I get nervous talking to new people. And so I definitely plan ahead. Like anyone that has been on the show knows that I always do a pre-interview call. And I think that helps really like calm my nerves to get to meet the person first. And it also helps the guest. And then it also gives me a launching point to like draft all the questions. So like I plan all the questions ahead of time and we deviate from them. And I think maybe now I'm a little bit better at kind of directing conversation and making sure I'm getting kind of like the meat of the episode that I'm looking for. But sometimes I still run into problems where like sometimes people will say things that kind of catch me off guard and I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't really know what to say to you. But that's a good part of editing.
Yeah, well, sometimes those interactions are fun to keep in there because those are some of the most gripping parts. I always like, because you've started, getting a little more formulaic with it, and you definitely have a process now, I can tell. And so I always look into, after you get in like about 5 minutes into the interview is when guests start getting into like the things they're really excited about.
We're like past the introduction.
Yeah, and that's always a fun part for me when they get to that point. When they start getting giddy about talking about nerdy stuff. And
I love when they nerd out.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I'm
the
like,
best part.
Give me all the details.
When your guests just like go, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
The more talking they do, the easier it is for me.
So over the past 100 episodes, what has been like your favorite part about like going through and conducting these interviews and kind of figuring it out? And then what's been like the most rewarding part of being able to interview such a variety of different experts in their fields? Like, and you can have more than one answer because there's a lot.
Yeah. Are you asking like what my favorite interview was, or just kind of
just
like
your favorite part
just
in
my favorite
general
part
of conducting the interviews and running the podcast in general?
I think it is the people that I get to interview. Like I really like hearing their perspectives, especially if it's on a topic that I don't know a lot about. And they can kind of educate me. And I do learn a lot from every single guest, which I really appreciate. And a lot of the people that have been on the show, like we stayed in contact. I mean, I visited that one in Florida and all of them are doing amazing things. And it's just kind of been like a fun network to build, I guess, has been the best part. Yeah. So what about for you guys? Do you have a favorite part of doing the show, or like a most rewarding part of the last few episodes that you've been a part of? I know that you've done a few more episodes, and I guess you don't work directly with the guests, Ethan, so I would be interested to see like what you enjoy most.
I think for me, in terms of like my job within Outdoor Minimalist, I think my favorite part is like once, in terms of like editing the YouTube videos and stuff like that, once I get them like done and like published, it's nice to like see like a cohesive little moment of your life and a little cohesive what's the word I'm looking for?
Box, snapshot.
Yeah, like
snippet.
a little snapshot of like where you've been and what you're up to. And because sometimes, you know, you'll go weeks without sending videos to do, and then there's so much stuff in there, and it's just fun to like package it all together and sew it all up and then share it. I think that's really fun. In terms of like the guests and the podcast side, I think my favorite part of it is the variety. I love how vast the scope is of your guests, and it makes it really fun for me, who's like on the inside, and like I know who you're talking to and I know what's going on the podcast side of things. But anytime an episode's put up, it's always like, oh, like this is completely different than last week's. And it's just, for me as a listener, it is really exciting to just every week or every episode, it's something new and something fresh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like all the fun that I have with it is I too jump into it completely learning a subject I never thought I'd be learning about. Like,
Yeah.
got weirdly versed in bear safety a few
Yes.
months ago. So, I mean, like,
Now you'll be prepared.
yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you have really, really, really fun guests, really interesting points of view. Like when you did that interview, vegans and hunters have more in common than they have different, you know, like that was, I like that you look at the other side of things, even as a vegan, you're like, I'll talk to these meat eaters. and I appreciate that. And I like those things.
Yeah.
Intersectionality.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for
The
here.
variety really keeps it exciting.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah. I was a little bit worried about having like such a broad variety at first, because I was like, should it be more like niche and narrow? But it is pretty niche still.
It is. And I feel like it just kind of, it demonstrates how far reaching that the principle of outdoor minimalism is, though.
True.
And how how it all intersects. I mean, everything is dependent on each other.
Yeah, because I mean, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. We're all going outside and using the same spaces. So we should probably work together.
Yeah. One Earth, right? So, all these fun guests that we've had in the last 100 episodes, right? Like 80 some guests. Going forward, do you have a dream guest or dream guests that you'd like to have on the podcast?
Absolutely.
And who are those?
I think my number one is Yvonne Chenard.
Ooh.
Is that who you thought it would
It's
be?
not who I thought it was.
Okay, well, for those that don't know, that's the founder of Patagonia. Yeah, I mean, honestly, anyone from the originating team of Patagonia would be stellar to talk to. I know that they're not all with us on the earth anymore, but like most of them are still doing like really amazing things. And even though Yvonne has kind of like passed the torch with Patagonia, he still has a big influence in the company and just like generally the sustainability impact. And they just, anytime anyone brings up sustainability in the outdoor industry, Patagonia is the first one that comes to mind. They're a huge player and a huge influence to other companies and like a great model to look to. He was kind of like the first one that I probably considered, mostly because of how relevant he is to like the show and the premise of the show. But if I had to choose like a different one, no surprise, it would be Jane Goodall. Yeah, I knew you guys thought that I was going to say that initially, but I have loved Jane Goodall since I could remember who people were. So
it's true.
I read her books. I saw her in the magazines when she was like starting all her like big tours. That was kind of like our childhood, is when she started to do more of the educational tours, I think. Yeah, she's amazing. I'm just thinking about her now. Okay. What about you guys?
Well, I mean, given maybe I'm speaking for both of us here. What we do on this side of the podcast is, I would love for you to interview Jimmy Chin.
Of course. A fellow Minnesotan too.
Fellow Minnesotan, fellow adventurist. And just, he's worked on so many amazing projects, and it would just be cool to hear his side of thing. And honestly, I would like some tips for minimizing our gear in the field, because I feel like that guy can probably figure it out if he can put everything in a backpack and climb Meru. And
facts.
So, I mean, if you can shoot a world-class documentary from a backpack, I feel like he's probably got some tips and tricks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. As somebody who, I'm a photographer and a videographer and, love adventuring, and he just in that career and in that ethos of what he does just matches a dream job for both of us. And so I would second that. I think being able to just nerd out with him on everything from, the technical side in terms of like gear and how he like manages gear up on Everest with his fingers freezing and having to, change batteries and stuff, to just like his ethos and his mindset of how he goes about in doing these adventures and stuff, I think would be really insightful.
Might be a little fangirly for me.
But 100%, not even a little bit.
That's why I didn't say Jane Goodall at first, because I was like, I just fangirl her, so I don't know if I should say her out. And I feel like we should backtrack a little bit, because we didn't necessarily like pick who our favorite current guests have been that we have had on the show.
Oh, that's
and
tough.
So I guess at the time of filming this, you haven't heard all the episodes that have been released up until this point, like the 100th episode.
That's
so
true.
You would have heard up to episode 86.
86? Is it 86 or 87?
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah. So if you can think back.
I'm terrible with names.
Oh, just like what the episode was about.
But the horse ladies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love
Women
the
in the
horse-
Wild.
Oh,
That
they were
was one of
amazing.
mine.
I knew you guys were going to like that one, because it's about a documentary.
And it also goes back to what I was saying earlier about the diversity in your guests. Like it's kind of off the beaten path of what we normally cover in the podcast. And so that episode was it was really fun.
That was a fun episode.
I also liked bear safety.
Yeah.
Just
he was
as
so interesting.
It's very relevant for us who camp a lot in Minnesota, and my family camps a ton in northern Minnesota. So
yeah, where there's actually bears.
yep.
Yeah.
And so that was really informative and really good.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick though, because like
It
I
is.
said, every guest just has a wonderful, like unique take on what they're experts in. And so it's kind of like just a goodie bag of different things, and you can't really pick one. You're like, oh, this is good because of this, and this one's
The
good because of
teacher in
this.
Bali.
Oh my gosh.
What a cool
Yeah.
interview too. Wow. Yeah, you've had some really neat guests.
Yeah, it is really hard for me to pick one too. I feel bad. Like, I don't want to say it out loud.
Right, because there are things you like about all of the guests.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if like a different way to phrase it. Instead of like my favorite guest, I'd say like maybe one that I identified with most.
Resonated with you more.
Yeah, and it would be Robin Lee Carlson. She did the interview about like the wildfires. I forget what that episode is called. But basically, she's an author and illustrator, and she basically went to this area where there was a huge wildfire, and then she documented how like it ecologically changed as it regrew. And so it was interesting to hear her perspective on how like something that we see as so destructive actually like helping a landscape, because like in a lot of other cultures, specifically indigenous cultures, fires were very positive and they're used in a really positive way, and they were just like a part of like nature. And now that it has like changed so much culturally with how they're run in the United States and things. So, and also she's an author, and so I think we were able to kind of connect on that level about like her process of writing the book is obviously very research based.
Sure.
And so she's probably one of my faves. But there's so many good ones. I mean, like all the dog episodes.
Of course.
The dog episodes. I love the dog episodes.
I will say too, like, I think this episode might end up being my favorite just because, I mean, it's nice for us to like.
We're all together.
Yeah, like very rarely are all three of us in the same room together.
Let alone the same state.
And so it's really nice for us to just like sit down and be able to like just talk about what we're building together and what we've like accomplished so far and the things that like we're going to do and the things we want to do, because we have a laundry list of stuff that like we're going to be doing, and which is all really exciting. And so it's exciting.
Which we can talk about next. We're not going to talk about future projects yet, but we will get to that. But
so after interviewing 80 some odd guests and having 100 episodes, what is some advice that you would give yourself 100 episodes ago, like when you were first starting out?
The first one would be chill the fuck out. I don't know. I felt like
that's advice we give you every day.
Oh, everyone gives that to me. And I'm just like, I operate at such a high level of anxiety all the time that now that I'm on anxiety meds, I don't know what to do, because I'm like, where is it? Where's the anxiety? But I guess I just wanted everything to be perfect, and it's kind of my baby. I had written the book, and now this was like the major marketing thing for the book and a way to expand on the ideas. And it's something I really cared about. And I was working with the consultant, Emily Holland, at the time. And she really helped me kind of like formulate things and get prepared, and gave me a lot of good advice after she listened to my early episodes. And I think one of her big things that she told me that I took as kind of like a takeaway was to have a little more personality. Because I mean, like, she had talked to me regularly to the buildup of the episode, and she felt like had she just listened to the episode, she wouldn't have gotten to know me very well. But like the relationship that you have with the listeners is really important. And so I think that earlier on, I should have tried to integrate more of that. That would be like the biggest piece of advice that I would give myself. And like, it doesn't need to be perfect. And the editing doesn't need to be perfect, because I did the first like 30 so episodes editing, and I wanted to cut everything out. I was like, I want every loud breath out. I want every out. I don't like want to sound dumb. I don't like want to be like phrasing questions weird, because I pause a lot when I speak, just really naturally. That's like the cadence of my voice and like the way my brain formulates sentences and context to things. So I think keeping some of that in makes it more natural. And I took a lot of that out early on. Yes. The end. What about you guys? What advice would you give yourself when you first started?
I think mine's pretty similar to yours, because like when I first started, I wanted to keep it as true to the way you were doing it as I could, while building upon that and trying to make it better. And yeah, there's been some episodes where I really hack it apart, and now I still curtail it down, make it a little swifter, flow a little nicer, but I leave a little more awkwardness in, because I feel like
it's just people having a conversation.
You get a good flavor, I guess, of how people are.
I think opposite to that for me is, in the beginning, I tried to keep everything in terms of like the vlog and the YouTube channel. I tried to keep as many, like if you sent me 40 videos, it was like every single one of those made it into the episode. And as I've gone on, what I was saying earlier about like kind of making like a little story or like a snapshot of your life wherever you are within the van trip and the things we're doing going forward, it's okay to like take things out to make the overall episode or the overall narrative of what's going on a little tighter and a little better. So I would definitely tell myself to cut some things out.
Opposite ends of the spectrum here.
And on a more technical side, file management. My files at the beginning were everywhere, and now I have a really good system.
Yeah.
Before I would just like download stuff, and stuff would be here and there. My computer was insane.
I definitely would have bought my dedicated hard drive like right away.
Yeah. I have like 3 hard drives that all are like outdoor minimalist.
Yeah.
Having the systems in place are really important to workflow management and stuff. But yeah, I think that is kind of a good segue to talk about like things that maybe we want to move into and like do in the future. And it doesn't even have to be the immediate future, but like, where do we see ourselves going and what projects are we really, really wanting to be reaching for?
I don't know. I feel like just keep going, you know, doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It would be nice to be able to like, you know, maybe follow you around on some of your adventures sometimes too, but I think that would be a fun thing to do, maybe documentary or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I think that's for me, a like future project would be going on more trips together and doing more adventuring. And in terms of the video and stuff like that, more like showing instead of telling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And just to show how like the things that you discussed in the book and the things that you talk about with your guests on the podcast, like just showing that stuff in practice in everyday outdoor recreation, I think would be cool.
Yeah.
And long form documentary would definitely be something that, I mean, I know we all want to do that eventually.
Oh, yeah.
so-
Yeah. We just got to build up to it.
But now we have like purposeful reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I am going to start the production company. So the Black-Footed Ferret Productions. So Outdoor Minimalist would grouped under that. And so we could just kind of like grow and evolve through that. And I, forever and a day, I have wanted to do a children's book also on black-footed ferrets, which is actually written. The text is written, but I'm working with the same illustrator that did Outdoor Minimalist, and she's worked on a couple of the illustrations, but in the summertime, she lives in Alaska and mountaineers, so she's busy. She's doing cool stuff. I can't blame her. It sounds way more fun.
That was future projects. I mean,
Well, we kind of covered the maybe the possibility of doing another book, and we kind of touched on maybe doing some long form media.
Yeah, the children's book is one, but I have like other book ideas that I have kind of like toyed with, but I kind of need to decide if I want to self-publish the next book or if I want to try and work with a publishing company again.
Sure.
I had a really good experience working with Falcon Guides, but like the other books that I have considered wouldn't fit within
Sure.
like a guidebook necessarily.
Okay, sure.
And there's like other types of writing projects that I have considered just to like try, like doing like writing a script, you know, like a TV script or like a screen production or something like that, just to kind of broaden the types of writing that I'm doing, because I do often feel pigeonholed. Like I really am passionate about the topics of Outdoor Minimalist, but I feel like I have cut out like only one specific thing, and I care about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of starting the production company is, I mean, we can do whatever we want under that umbrella. It doesn't necessarily have to be a certain subject or topic. I mean,
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to call it the same name. Like I didn't want it to be Outdoor Minimalist as a production company, because like it's not the only thing that I would ever want to work on and you guys would ever want to work on. So it's nice.
And it allows us to invite in like other collaborators and stuff too in the future and work on some projects. So,
Yeah. Well,
speaking of future projects, I mean, what's coming up for? I mean, I suppose this will be later, but like we're doing gear reviews, so that'll be cool.
well, when this will have aired,
They'll already be out.
they'll be
We're
out.
filming ahead of time, so I'm like, my timeline is so off.
Yeah, the timeline is hard.
Because that happens when we live in 3 different states. We have to
Plan ahead.
plan ahead and
Yeah,
schedule things. So
lots of Google Docs and
yeah.
So many Google.
But I mean, since like now that you're watching this, we've been doing gear reviews and stuff. Do you have a favorite piece of gear?
My favorite piece of gear. In what discipline?
I know, because
Like-
I mean, like, what your favorite tent versus like favorite piece of climbing equipment,
Or
Yeah,
my
that's-
favorite pair of shoes?
piece of dog gear.
If I had to pick the item that I love the most as far as an inanimate object, it would be my bike.
Sure.
Yeah. A Raleigh Tamlin 2. Yeah. It's a gravel bike. It's a beautiful color. And
It's like seafoam. isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah. And my friend Larry, he actually built me a bike and he matched the color.
Oh, you
And-
have a set.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
And so
It's
that
amazing.
one is more like a bike packing bike. I like both of those bikes. Like I like Larry's bike more than the Raleigh just because it has more of like a personal
Sure.
feeling to it. And I mean, he built it specifically for me and for Leo, for us together. Yeah. So it is a hardtail. So there's suspension in the front. So it makes it a little more comfortable for bike touring. And, the way that he has it built with like the frames and like storage on the bike is perfect for bike packing. So as we grow as a team, Leo, I know you're not listening, but we'll start doing longer distance trips. And he will love it. And I will love it. And that bike is perfect for it. That's my fave. Probably, that is also probably Ash and Leo's favorite piece of gear, too. Yeah.
I know whenever that dog sees a bike, he just goes nuts.
Both of them do. They're like, oh my gosh, we're doing something. Your turn.
What, our favorite pieces of gear? I guess I would be kind of split between my camera and your old car.
The Subaru.
Well, because this is actually my second white Subaru Forester. I used to have a 2001, and that was
your baby.
when I came down to think about what was my favorite piece of camping equipment. It was my car. I mean, that old Subaru was just perfect for like. I like car camping, so I mean, it was perfect for that.
Yeah.
I think for me, I mean, same with you. Like, anytime I go anywhere, I have my camera with me, and it just like is nice to just be able to like bring that around and capture where you are and the beauty of like nature around you. I think that's really great. But when you posed this question earlier, you put a price limit on it
You did.
$50.
of $50, and my camera's not $50.
Okay, so favorite piece of gear, $50 or less.
I thought long and hard about this, but I think mine is my Climate Static V sleeping pad. It is,
That brand is Climate?
yep,
Okay.
it's insulated and it's super comfortable and it folds up into like smaller than an Algene bottle, so I can throw it in any pack, like no matter what kind of trip I'm going on, like hiking, like a hiking trip or like car camping or anything. Like, it doesn't matter. It's small, it's comfy, it's the
And it was
best.
under $50, folks. That is a budget sleeping pad if I ever heard one.
Link in the description. Get that Amazon affiliate.
We're not affiliated with Amazon in any respect, so
Sorry, Jeff.
Cut that.
I'm gonna be lame, and it's gotta be like my old tried and true Nalgene bottle.
oh, they're so epic.
That just yes.
There she be. And the mouth like that because
Oh, you like the narrow mouth?
yeah, the wide mouth unless you have the little like insert.
I have a big mouth. It doesn't bother me.
Now that you say that, this is probably my favorite. My dad bought this for me almost 12 years ago.
It's in such good condition.
And I have carried it with me every day, everywhere I've gone for 12 years.
I've never had one that
the
Nalgene label lasts for more than like a year on.
I don't know how. It's scratched, I throw it around, I beat it up. It's fallen down.
They're durable.
It's fallen down cliff sides. It's gotten lost in the woods. This is, now that you say that, this is probably.
It's hard,
and if you're
hard
hanging,
to beat the Nalgene.
If you're hanging a bear bag, Nalgenes work way better than rocks. Okay, you're gonna hurt yourself by throwing a rock over a branch. Just tie it to a partially full Nalgene, and you might still hit yourself, but it's not gonna hurt as bad.
Life lessons.
Wide mouth or?
I'm a wide mouth guy because I guess I'm more concerned about cleaning it too.
Right.
But I mean, it's a preferential
I go
thing.
with the smaller one because if you accidentally kick it over after you've been filtering water all day.
Devastating.
Oh, that's true. We can just get them.
Because you use the pump filter.
But
again, and then
cleaning inside is
preferences
easier.
here.
We've all kicked over freshly filtered water and then just wanted to go bury our head in.
I've also kicked over freshly cooked food.
I've done like a whole pot of just boiled water, partially on the fire. That's always fun.
But when you knocked it over onto the fire?
Yeah, it was like I was grabbing it and I hooked on something and it extinguished half of the fire. And I'm
that's so
perfect.
annoying.
What a perfect way to end my day.
I am having so much fun. Okay, mine is one that everyone already knows if they listen to any of the podcasts, and it is the Mini Everything Towel by Lava Linens.
Hey.
And I will put that link in the description because I love them. And the Mini Everything Towels, their original, I don't know if that's the original size, but it's their travel size one. And it's made from flax linen, which is a really sustainable fiber, and it is beautifully absorbent for the size. I think that size rolls down to about the size of an Nalgene, actually, since we were talking about Nalgene so much. And I really like it because these dogs love to swim and they love to get dirt in the van and water in the van. And
I can see how annoyed you are when you say that.
Well, last night I had an experience with mud specifically. And and even though it is so absorbent, it also dries really fast. And they put a very strategically placed hemp loop on it, so you can hang it on the back of your pack and It dries while you hike. And the color that I have is black, so it absorbs the sun and dries even faster. Just a beautifully designed towel that I know sounds weird that I'm obsessed with a towel, but I use it all the time. So
it's the little
and that's
things.
how you know if something's good or not.
Yeah.
It's just if you naturally gravitate towards it and use it and it brings you joy.
It does bring me joy. And I have one of their other ones. It's their flax and hemp mixture, and it's a lighter weight one. And I like it, but I have it in the normal bath towel size. So I don't like to bring it along on as many trips because it's bigger and I don't need one that big. But I probably use that one more in my day-to-day life. So if I'm going on a day hike, or I keep that one in my car kind of thing. Yeah. But I do know that the Mini Everything is actually under $50, and I think the bigger sizes are over $50. So if we want to stay in the price range.
So price aside, dream piece of gear, something. I already know what you.
It's gonna be ridiculous. Is yours gonna be ridiculous?
I don't know. That's a hard thing to think about. I mean, yeah, you could be extravagant if you wanted to, but
I'll start off because I think I know mine. Is I just run cold, and so anytime I'm anywhere, it could be camping in the summer or anything, or sitting around a campfire, I always have a coat on because I'm just always cold. And to find a really nice, really warm coat that packs down really small, Like I've tried many different kinds. I still haven't found the one that is like perfect warmth and perfect packability for me.
Sure.
And so if I can find that, like that would complete
The perfect coat.
that would complete my my gear list.
I'm going through a list in my head, and I will consult you later.
Perfect, because I've been
She has had a lot of jackets in her day. That's, yeah.
Yeah, jackets.
but I'm also one who like can't just like leave the fire alone. I gotta like poke it a lot, so it has to be like a little flame resistant. Like any nylon, like I'm gonna start on fire.
Okay.
So somewhere between nylon and asbestos. We'll find.
And asbestos.
I don't think they make those anymore, but I think I'm gonna have to go with like kind of a nice packed up like teardrop camper.
Oh yeah,
Oh, good.
teardrop.
A teardrop camper.
That one is a
can-
good one.
Something that weighs not very much, but has like a pop up kitchen in the back.
Oh yeah, like the outdoor ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are adorable. I love
Yeah,
them.
I would just love that.
I have no idea what mine is.
I think that's. Yeah. Or I think you had an Instagram post a while back that was you in one of those foldable kayaks.
Oh, the Oru kayaks. Yeah.
Those things are neat. I would like one of those too.
I have mixed feelings about that. I did write a review on the Oru kayaks on Field and Stream. If you want to know how I truly feel about them, so
Okay.
you can go and read it.
I suppose it depends on how. I'll read about it.
Yeah. I think they work really well for certain people, but I'm
Sure.
not sure if I am the perfect person for them. If that makes sense. I honestly I have no idea what my dream piece of gear is. I feel like I have all the gear that I really need.
Sure.
And I'm not sure. I guess one thing that would be nice is the trackers that I have for these guys. They run off of the cell towers. So
Sure.
I have been really considering getting like the GPS ones that like sync with like a Garmin or something like that.
Satellite.
Yeah. Just so if like crazy things happen, because like I do keep Leo on a leash like most of the time, but like his leash broke that one time. And so like in certain situations, just for his safety and like my peace of mind, it would be nice. Okay, so back to sustainability. Okay, so if you're thinking of kind of like big picture type things, what about the sustainability movement in general, or what companies do regarding sustainability would you consider a pet peeve?
Well, greenwashing in general, right? I mean, you've had multiple episodes about it. The whole concept is, companies not having accountability for hollow promises and things like that. It's aggravating.
To say the least.
It is.
I feel like that's a pretty general consensus on
Yeah.
pet peeves. I mean, you're a little bit more of an expert on the subject matter.
So many things bother me. Yeah, so I guess mine is related. Like companies in general, like in the general realm of sustainability, I feel like, especially if they are releasing sustainability information, a lot of times they are putting so much of the responsibility on the consumer and not taking accountability where they need to be. Or they will highlight like really small specific things that they're doing, kind of like a lesser of two evils type approach, which is a type of greenwashing, really. But it just bothers me that a lot of especially larger corporations will put so much responsibility on like, well, consumers should be doing this and that, when actually they're the ones that are contributing to a lot more greenhouse gas emissions, a lot more degradation of environments that are like so far removed from the consumer that we have no control over.
Well, how can you do it when they don't have completely transparent information about how they do things?
Exactly.
So if you're already like led by misinformation, it's hard to do anything the right way.
You didn't have one?
No, I just.
I mean, I feel like
Yeah, you covered
really
it.
expand on that
it's
more.
hard. It's hard to practice like good sustainability when the information isn't there.
And certain things are unavoidable for consumers, like because it's so far out of our control.
Yeah, exactly.
The lack of information, or I shouldn't say lack of information. I think all the information is accessible, but it can be a lot to work through. And most people just straight up don't have the time to do that. And that is kind of like a big reason why Outdoor Minimalist felt relevant and necessary, even though there's a lot of other resources available to talk about those topics. So I guess I am wondering, do you guys feel like you would consider yourselves minimalists?
I would consider myself an aspiring minimalist. You know, it's constantly trying to get better because, I mean, you can't do everything perfectly and everybody makes mistakes and you don't always have the best information. So.
And it's an ongoing process. Like there is no finish line of like, I did X, Y, and Z, and now I can consider myself like very sustainable and very like minimalist, and it ebbs and flows based on day to day, week to week, year, you know, where you are in your life, what you're doing. And so it's more of like a growth and mindset trajectory versus like a destination.
Yeah, more about the journey.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily linear, and you can't necessarily compare your like personal, I guess, growth through minimalism to anyone else. Like there's going to be overlaps obviously and things that you do similarly, but nothing is going to like perfectly align with someone else, and no one is necessarily doing it 100% right.
And there are things just, you know, it's an ongoing process just to keep things in the back of your mind. And then when you interact with things or consume things on a day-to-day basis, just remembering like how to be better and how to make smarter and better choices.
Yes. Once you know better, do better.
As we're like getting closer to the end of this episode, do you want to talk about some fun things, favorite trips?
Fun.
Favorite trips and or experiences outside?
Experiences outside.
Yeah, like good outdoor trips, like your...
Yeah, so there's a lot of good times that I've had outside. But I think the one that sticks out in my memory the most is one that I took with my friend Katie, Caitlin. I'm the only person allowed to call her Katie. And I hope she listens to this. But we went to the Glacier Peak Wilderness in eastern Washington. And that was kind of like her first big trip in the mountains. And so I think it was a fun like learning experience. It was also kind of fun to get to like somewhat mentor someone so close to me. And help her like learn how to do things that I was already really passionate about. And we had a lot of ups and downs during that trip. We had a lot of like weather changes. The terrain was hard. I had not one of these dogs, but another husky named Tundra that is afraid of everything. So we got to experience that. There was one section where we were going down the glacier where I had to hold him and then like slide down the glacier because he refused to go. It was very exciting. And then like immediately after that, I had to like at the end of the glacier on a mountain, like strip off all my clothes because I got soaking wet and the temperature just like dropped. And I was like, I'm about to get hypothermia. Yep. So that was fun. And then, but there were just like so many memorable things going on and a lot of type 2 fun, but also we camped next to one of the most beautiful lakes I've ever seen. It's that photo that you're like, where is that? And you're like, did you take that just with your phone? It's like a lake with a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lyman Lakes. And I don't really know what else to say. I think that even though it was like a harder trip, a good confidence builder for both of us, like getting to know our limitations, working as a team, and kind of becoming a more passionate duo in the outdoors. I think that was like an important trip for us as an outdoor couple, which we're not like a couple, but like, what do you say? A partner. And like an adventure partner. There we go. She's engaged to a man. Okay. An adventure partner. I really hope she listens to this. Yeah, and I think that sometimes it is more about like the people that you're with, because like I was going through sometimes like difficult scenarios, but also seeing a lot of really beautiful things and experiencing a lot of really good times with someone that I really love and care about. It just made the trip altogether a little more rewarding.
Sweet.
Yeah. I'm also glad I didn't get hypothermia.
You know, that's always a plus. I think mine would probably be when you and I were in Snow Canyon State Park in Utah when you moved to St. George. And we decided to go there for the afternoon and, you know, just walk around taking some of the fantastic scenery. And we decided to go take a venture on the petrified dunes.
Amazing.
And it was so pretty, all the little, you know, the rolling former hills.
There's still hills.
There are still hills, that's true. They're just really hard now.
Rock hills.
So that introduced me to the phenomenon of, in the desert, there are like surprise canyons just everywhere.
Surprise.
Like each one of those little rolls got a canyon down in the bottom of them. Did not know that. And I don't think we went more than a mile on the map. It took us hours to get there. And I think you have your profile pictures of that day, or my profile picture.
Yeah, when you
I
call me, it pops up of us in the shade. The one slice of shade that we found
like
all day.
One little rock, and it was probably, we were there at the right time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we rested under that rock after she made me do my first free solo. I mean, it wasn't like Alex Honnold or anything, but I mean, you know, so 30 feet for someone who's only climbed like 10 times in their life,
It was impressive, and on sandstone and non-climbing shoes.
Yeah, you know, but it saved us like 2.5 hours to going back the way we had just
Yeah,
come.
there were not a lot of alternatives.
No, so it was like, let's do this. We're both getting hungry.
Yeah.
The great motivator.
Yep.
Yes, especially between the two of us.
Yeah, well, everybody likes food, right? That'd probably be one of my favorites, but you know, it is hard to choose. And again, company is everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think company is everything, because mine is definitely my brothers and I and my dad went to the Boundary Waters a couple years ago, and we've all been there before multiple times. And so it's not like it was this like crazy new experience, but it was the first time that we all got to go there together. And so it's just about who you're with that makes the experience, I think, sometimes.
Sick.
Do you have a worst or least favorite outdoor experience?
Least favorite. Yeah. It would be when I was in Peru with our friend Miriam and her sister Leia and our other German friend that we met earlier in that afternoon named Milan. And we decided to hike this specific trail to Machu Picchu from the city of Cusco. And I want to preface this by saying we took the proper precautions to prepare for the altitude changes, because Cusco is a certain elevation. A lot of people like kind of base camp there. We were taking our time and like getting up the mountain. Like we were taking extra days to kind of like acclimate. And still, like I think like the second night or something like that, Miriam got altitude sickness. And before we went to bed, she just kind of had like a headache. And we were like, just drink some water. You're probably just dehydrated because it was a long hike. And then she got really, really sick through the night, and then even worse in the morning. So then we decided Leia and Milan will continue on. And then Miriam and I will hike back down to Cusco. And that was a whole thing in and of itself, which I think it potentially was probably scarier for Miriam, but it was also scary for me because it felt like a lot of responsibility. And I was pretty young. Like I was only 21 and she was 20. Thank you, Ash. And I just, my brain, the way that it works, I like to catastrophize, you know, and I think it helps me prepare for a lot of bad situations. Like they said, you should sit next to an anxious person during a plane crash because they're like, I knew this was going to happen kind of thing. And Yeah, so she ended up being fine. We got back down to Cusco and got a hotel together just because we wanted something really comfortable. Because I think at that point in our backpacking trip, like through South America, we were being pretty stingy, not really spending that much money. But we were like, you're really sick. Like, we need to deal and like be comfy. And then once she started to feel better, I got like really insane food poisoning. So back-to-back sicknesses. But the good news is we made it to Machu Picchu. We met up with Leia and Milan, and we had a great time.
Perfect.
But it was scary up until then.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
Yeah, the altitude sickness is definitely like, that's my worst story is a few years ago, we were climbing up Cloud Peak in the Grand Tetons, and we were like super gung-ho and just tried to like haul ass up to the top. And about halfway up, a couple of us started getting altitude sickness, but we were too stubborn to stop and, you know, take our time or consider turning around. And we just like kept on pushing, and it ended up really bad for me and one of my other friends who were climbing up this thing, and we didn't make it to the top, and because we were so sick, and two of our friends did, and then we got to hear about how we couldn't hack it for the rest of the trip, which was probably the worst part. But yeah, that's probably my worst trip.
Well, I guess mine doesn't have anything to do with altitude sickness.
What a bummer. I'm
so sorry to
You should
share
experience
that
it
with
sometime.
So I used to go to camp up in upstate New York for a few summers when I was in like middle school and, you know, whatnot then. And it was my third year up there. I was like a cabin aide, and as part of that, we had to do an experience in the woods where we had to do a solo hike to our campsite in the dark, right? In the dark in Adirondack bear country. We had to.
Why did they send you in the dark? I'm just kind of concerned about that part of it.
Well, you know, I think this is a tradition that they've had for like over 100 years, and they just, you know, can't break that tradition. So we hiked through the dark and they had to go off trail after a certain amount of time to set up our campsite for the night. And about halfway through the hike, it just started downpouring. And I'm 14 at the time, hiking in the dark through bear country, with all of this soaking wet gear now, because, you know, I didn't have a good wet bag or a dry bag. And it was like in a torn plastic bag that held all the water into the stuff that I was trying to keep it out of.
Just really saturated it.
And so I was setting up my wet ass campsite and went and hung my bear bag. And then I went and laid down in my single person tent and listened to the rain beat down on it in my wet sleeping bag that I didn't really get to sleep in. It was a good thing it was raining though, because when I woke up, I found that my bear bag had been taken, chewed through on the rope. And then I not only had wet gear, I didn't have food. But luckily it was the last night that I had to spend out, and just, we were all meeting at the trailhead when we were done. And I was just like, does anybody have a granola bar? I don't have any food and I'm wet. So I was not the only wet one, granted, given that it was raining like all night.
Were you the only one whose bear bag got taken?
I was the only one who had their bear bag taken.
Lucky you.
But that was probably great character building though.
Yeah.
And it's a fun story, but that was probably my least favorite at the time.
Does anyone have
Favorite trips? Worst trips?
dream destinations?
Dream trips.
I don't know. Yes, I do. Okay. Nope, change my mind. Okay.
All right, then I'm gonna go.
Yeah, you go.
Go, go, go.
Now I'm on the spot. I haven't thought about it.
Okay,
Oh my
fine then.
gosh.
I mean, I'll just pick one. I would definitely like to go to Africa,
Where?
the Serengeti.
Okay.
I don't know what time of year, you know.
I don't know. There's seasons.
I know.
The good time of year, I guess.
The good time of year. Yeah, the good time of year.
The rainy season.
Yeah, I could bring my canoe. Bring my canoe to Africa. It's a check bag.
It's a checked bag.
I feel like this is an inside joke.
It's not. I'm just stupid.
This is just a joke.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to be funny and
It was
failing.
funny. It was funny.
What about like the Serengeti is like, what puts it on the top of your list for you?
Well, BBC. I mean,
Jimmy Chin.
no, Jimmy Chin did not hurt either. It's a part of the world that, you know, you've grown up seeing on National Geographic and Animal Planet, and I like animals, and I really like giraffes and elephants, and I think it would be really neat to see them where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, for
you know?
sure.
In their natural habitat.
I mean, that is a hard one because I mean, like, I want to go to Palawan and Bali and New Zealand, but I mean, like,
yeah, there's so many good places.
I mean, off the top of my head, that's one. It's so different than anywhere that I've ever been. I mean, yeah, we live on the prairie, but the prairie here hasn't been like that for like 15,000 years.
Seriously.
I think speaking of like stuff that's so different from like what you normally see, mine is Olympic National Forest, just because it is so different from all the other national forests in terms of it just has this rainforest vibe, and I think that part of the country is really beautiful, and we don't get to see that type of stuff just from where we're from, and so that's definitely on the top of my list. But my list is also a mile long too, so it changes with the day, but I think that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I guess most recently, my destination that has been on my mind is the Philippines. Yes. For a lot of reasons.
Particular part?
No, not really. Just like in general. I also I don't think I have spent a lot of time on like islands.
Sure.
So it would be kind of nice. And I also haven't spent a ton of time like exploring like ocean areas. And so I think that would be cool. And also just like culturally would be interesting. Historically would be interesting. Heritage wise would be interesting. I mean, you got to go.
Yeah, when I was 10. I mean, I would love the experience, but I would love to go back.
As an adult, yeah.
You're going to love island life. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's a universal thing like everywhere. It's like, we get the island thing. You know, it's just awesome. And the ocean's just truly majestic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd probably be one. Because I think it would be like important for me to go before I die. Just like kind of like one of the more important bucket lists for me.
We should go together.
Oh my God.
And me.
Hey, we could make a trip out of it.
When you're going on these trips, what snack are you bringing?
So many snacks.
Like, what's your favorite like camp snack?
My go-to snack.
Pistachios.
In the shell or out of the shell?
In the shell. I like to do it in the shell because it slows me down.
Oh, that's
You
fair.
can't just handful
Oh
them.
man,
And pistachios are expensive.
They are expensive. So I like to enjoy them, and yeah, the shell slows me down.
That's fair. I think mine, dates, dried dates. I love them. I got really into them when I was more interested in running. Not as interested. I do it sometimes, but like not as passionately. They're just so delicious, and they're like eating candy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can eat them with so many different things. Like you can have like crackers and peanut butter and then put like part of a date on there.
I love dates with a little bit of savory something. Oh, they are such a delightful food. That's a good one.
Yeah. And you can like bite them up and baby bird feed them into your oatmeal and have a little sweet treat in the morning.
Baby bird feed them into your oatmeal. I suppose you won't be able to tell it's the same looking as the oatmeal.
You also can chop it up. You can.
No, preferably don't do that to your guests' oatmeal.
Just don't tell them. Who wants to go camping with me?
Okay.
I'll make your food.
Awesome.
You can't eat at everyone's house.
That is fascinating, Megan.
I know. Okay. There's certain people I know that will understand what I'm saying. You know, like when I do this a lot when I'm camping alone. I know it's going to sound weird, but like, especially with like hard vegetables like carrots, like I'll like chew, like cut them up in small pieces and then into my pot and then like cook it.
It's so much faster.
That's what I mean by baby bird feed.
Okay, I see what you mean now.
Yeah, I'm not like chewing it to a pulp and then like spitting
you're
it back.
basically slicing it. Okay, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah, and so you cut it up but with your teeth.
Baby bird feed, I just went straight to the process that a bird uses to feed its babies, which I'm like, oh, so you just straight up like regurgitated this date into your oatmeal.
No. Okay, I understand how. I'll think of a new way to phrase it.
I like that one. It led to this joyful conversation.
Okay. Anyway, Ethan, do you have a favorite snack?
A beer?
A beer?
That's not a snack.
Ham sandwich in a can.
According to who?
I don't know. Every white man. Because that's the metric we go by, right?
There is nothing better than being around a campfire or like getting done with a long hike and cracking a beer. It's perfect.
I do like that. I actually just had a conversation about this the other day. Drinking on the trail, hiking it's a liquor game because you get bang for your buck for the weight. So like car camping beer is probably okay. But
I'm not saying I'm hauling it with me. I'm saying it's waiting for me when I get back.
Like a base camp.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. I see.
Reward after a job well done.
I can get on board with that.
That's what the dates are for.
Not when they're coming from you.
Definitely need a beer to sanitize.
Might want something harder than that. That's a good one. Okay, well.
What are we on?
Close.
I apologize for that story.
I don't think you should. That's going to be like maybe my favorite part of this episode.
God. Yeah.
The worst part is you haven't seen it. I've seen it done.
She's done this in front of you?
In one of the vlogs. Just chopped up some
carrots.
Some broccoli and just...
Oh, broccoli.
And then she's like...
I love that you recorded yourself doing it, fully knowing that Ethan's gonna have to watch this.
I didn't put it in, but
I did it pretty much so Ethan had to watch it.
I think
love that.
She does that. You do that. You like add little things in there that you know I'm not gonna use.
Yeah, she talks to me when she does like her intros and stuff. She'll like say, "God damn it, you'll have to cut that out." You know, that was a brain fart. I'm just gonna ramble here for a little bit. I love it. I love the little personal messages that y'all don't get to see.
Or hear.
Apparently I'm Southern for some reason.
For some reason.
Sorry, Jay. Maybe we can do this for episode 200.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to like reminisce not only on like hear more about the experiences that we all have had, like maybe separately in the outdoors. And also because we are a remote team, like working apart from each other, like just being able to connect about similar interests and like brainstorm together and talk about our ups and downs through the journey. Because even though sometimes it does feel like you're kind of working on it alone.
Yeah, sometimes.
It is definitely a team effort, and it's nice to look back and kind of like catalog, like, yeah, these are
like Sensi said a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Sensi Graves.
And she had the whole thing about like taking the 10 years of your life and like cataloging the major moments and looking at it to appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have done a lot and you've come a long way since you started this endeavor. And
that's true.
I mean,
and we've known each other a long time.
Yeah, like at least a decade.
And now and now building something together is fun because like I said, we've known each other for a really, really long time and we're all really, really, really close. And so now that we're like doing something together, it's
fun.
It's a good time.
Now we can create together. And it's also nice because I feel like we play on a lot of our different strengths, because like it's kind of like a dream team, you know, like we are all
It's a perfect
in like
Venn diagram.
yeah, it's like everyone kind of like fits into their like little slot, and like we obviously help in other areas, but you get what I'm saying. I'm done.
And we'd be remiss not to mention like the real stars of this whole thing, which is Ash and Leo.
Obviously.
I mean, if it wasn't for them,
I don't know what I
we'd
wouldn't
be
have a
nowhere.
life.
I
You know,
love those dogs.
I love you guys too, and I love you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Stay
Here's
tuned.
to hundreds of more.
Hundreds.
All right. That's Megan's throat. We're waving to the camera.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. And if you like what you hear, let me know. Leave a review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Instagram at outdoor.minimalist.book, on YouTube, or subscribe to our weekly newsletter at theoutdoorminimalist.com. For even more updates, other educational resources, and to help build an outdoor community with the shared goal to create a better outdoor space as we recreate.